Shazam! Fury of the Gods is the sequel to 2019 Shazam with David Sandberg again on directorial duty, Henry Gayden scripting, and the entire cast of heroes back once again. Of the products under threat in the DC universe under James Gunn, Shazam is probably the only one that I was actually concerned about losing. The original was, perhaps for me, the best DC offering since the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, and they just seemed to strike a winning formula there. Obviously, look, I'm not going to tip my hat either way, but you get a clear idea of what's next after Fury of the Gods. They don't leave it up for debate. We return to find teenage Billy Batts, played by Asher Angel in human form, who's giving the Stranger Things kids a run for their money for aging out of his role, and by Zachary Levi in superhero form, dealing with both the imposter syndrome that was at the heart of the original and now adding a dollop of abandonment issues on top as his foster care is coming to an end with his 18th birthday on the horizon. He sees his foster family superhero team growing and going their own way and becomes clingy, trying to resist change. Meanwhile, Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu play our villain gods who've managed to resurrect the magical staff that gives our heroes their powers and use it for nefarious intentions. Throughout Fury of the Gods, I started to wonder what superhero movie this reminded me of, and Iron Man 3 kept coming to mind. Not that it's in any way similar in terms of story or style, it's not, but more in terms of how it made me feel, because the plot here, to be honest, is absolute nonsense, but the winning humor and charm remains very much intact, meaning you can never fully unhook yourself from this movie, no matter how ridiculous it gets. There's a lot of discussion these days about superhero fatigue, and I both agree and disagree to a point. It's not that there are too many of these projects, because when they go right, we don't tend to mind, but it's more fatigue with the old formula that all of them seemingly had to follow for so long. And to be honest, I think audiences, or at least just speaking for myself, I'm kind of sick of it. Here's a great case in point. This isn't a natural sequel. It's a sequel where they come up with a contrived reason to squash stars into place, chasing a MacGuffin that requires so much exposition to explain that they need to kind of bend over backwards to make it likable so we'll actually pay attention. Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu offer literally nothing to this movie. It's not that they're bad, there's just zero benefit to having them there, specifically beyond name recognition. I can't think of one scene that they were in where I'm like, that's why they needed to get Helen Mirren for this. I can only assume the logic came down to nothing but sheer unbridled availability on their part. The internal logic of the movie is all over the place. Like, why did they kill that person and not kill that person? Well, it's because that person matters and the other person is a randomer to the audience. Why did they take away that person's powers but not these people's powers? Well, because then our heroes would be powerless to defeat them in the end if they did. And look, that's kind of the gig of these movies. I do get it. I'm not trying to nitpick here, but the writer's job is to make these contrivances flow seamlessly so that we don't mind them. There are times when it appears that the writers are just at a loss what to do, so they push the Warner Brothers button, and we get either random nonsensical cameos or something that fits better in another property like Harry Potter or Game of Thrones. There's also a real issue for me with how they use Billy here. It feels like the movie got stuck in the middle of a contract battle between Zachary Levi and Asher Angel over screen time that Levi very much won. And the entire premise of Shazam is that, character-wise, mortal Billy is the one we're connected to and supposed to care about, and superhero Billy is only funny because we see Levi is able to mimic his teenage mannerisms so well. But if we don't get to see much of those mannerisms because he spends the majority of the movie in superhero form, how can he be funny then? Which is a bit of a pisser, because Zachary Levi is, well, to put it diplomatically, he is a regular on the Joe Rogan Experience. We tolerate this guy more than like him, but I don't think many are here expressly because of him. Yet when a character asks deep into the movie to speak to the real Billy, we realize how little we've actually spent with the real character until that point. Despite all of this, though, it is still funny. When it reached for a joke, it tended to work as a caper with a bunch of idiots mindlessly following a bad plan. If you'd have called it It's Always Shazam of Philadelphia and kept the emotional beats out of it, it'd probably make more sense. Shazam's unique selling point is that superheroes acting like kids is funny, and they do know how to hit that note when needed. So you can't really stay mad at it in spite of its many flaws. Like Iron Man 3, you just need to kind of accept that it's additional content with some characters that we really like, and then just accept that for what it is. A reasonably fun, if forgettable, couple of hours at the movies. It's not a complete failure, but I also can't say that if James Gunn decided to call time in it going into the new DC Universe era, I'd be as devastated now as I would have been going into the movie.